Jack.
Well, hello, Jill. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm really good. Very excited about today's program. I'm Jackie Rosen. As you know, you are Jill Lefkowitz. You need no introduction. The artist that you are, the person in the community, it's just all so freaking good. And I am so lucky to be able to co-host the Jack and Jill Art and Culture Tell-All with you, my darling friend. Now, what is that? The show, our mission, you and I, we have a little mission on how to help artists during COVID. And what does that mean? That means that you and I have come up with the idea to interview the leaders in the field here in our community and beyond, such as art influencers, Instagram specialists, art marketers, art consultants, art coaches, designers, and the like, to help all of us take our art to the next level and take us as artists and turn us into even better entrepreneurs and help us take our business and help it grow.
Well, today we do have a very special guest. We have Taryn Möller Nicoll. She is not only the chief curator of the Frank C. Ortis Art Gallery in Pembroke Pines, Florida, but she is also the adjunct professor of museum studies at NSU, Florida, which is also the DCMA, or the Bahamas College of Arts and Science. So let's welcome to the show our friend, Taryn Möller Nicoll. Hi, Taryn.
Hello, Jack and Jill. I am so excited to be on your show today. How are you both?
We're doing great. We're doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Are you doing well too?
Doing so well. I'd really love to say, first of all, thank you so much to the both of you and your whole team for having me on your show today. It is such an honor to be involved, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with you both today.
Well, we definitely appreciate your time because you're going to give a lot to the community, as we all should during this time. You know, what can we do? So I'm really impressed with your credentials. You graduated with honors with a BFA from the Otis College of Art and Design. That was in Los Angeles. A Master of Fine Arts you have, Louisiana State University. You grew up in Cape Town in South Africa. And tell us how your love of art first began.
Well, thank you so much for that summary. My love of art began like most artists. As a child, I will say all the things that many artists say. When we're talking one-on-one. I have always loved creating art, and my first experiences with art, quite simply, or a form of art, were just growing up with Disney movies, the two-dimensional 2D animation, full-length feature films. I was that child who would just sit there with the one button on the remote that I knew to use, which was pause.
Right.
And I would just pause from scene to scene, and I would, copy everything that I was seeing, and I would try to test out my drawing skills. And it was such a wonderful and easily accessible, mode of seeing and understanding. And I just, was able to do that in my own time. Most of us spend our whole lives trying to carve out time to create artwork, and that for me started when I was really young. I, for a long time, thought that I would be an animator. And, unfortunately, 2D animation started making its way out pretty much when I moved to the United States in 2004. I think that a lot of the major studios closed down their last remaining 2D departments. So, but, the very, very interesting thing for me was, as much as I loved cartoons and drawing and sketching, like a lot of children and young adults do, I was very, very lucky to have two things in my life. The first was my parents, despite being in the sciences, they're both pharmacists, they always encouraged my creativity. They always embraced the artistic side of me, but the thing that they always promoted was hard work. So they fully had, you know, all the encouragement in the world in terms of helping me foster a career in the arts, but they always said, if you want to, you know, live like a doctor or lawyer, you have to work as hard as a doctor or a lawyer.
Yes.
So, you know, growing up and in my young adulthood, I always had that emphasis on work ethic, and that came, you know, from my environment in my home. And then the other thing was I was just very lucky to have a lot of art teachers in junior and high school that really pushed me to not only stay where I was comfortable. So I was very, very comfortable doing line drawings and cartoons, and I just loved that. It was so easy. It was so easy for me, and it was so safe.
Right.
And they all really pushed me to develop in terms of like my representational strength. So drawing from the figure, drawing from observation, strengthening my ability to draw portraits and the human figure.
To see.
Correct.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was my second part of the question about your family supporting you, and that's just wonderful. But you did also make another good point, and the point being that artists don't realize this is a full-time job if you want to make it. This is not easy. Doesn't matter how much skill, talent, and commercially viable your product is. It's the work that you put in, and it's hard. And so Jill and I really figured that out and realized that this is a good platform so artists can, you know, learn and grow.
So, Taryn, you are so accomplished, and also I would love for you to talk about the work that is literally behind you, which is your art. And so your work, literally, it's been exhibited at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, Johns Hopkins Welch Medical Library, as well as many other prestigious museums and galleries. And your work's also on the cover of Consolation Prize by Tyler Robert Sheldon. Your work also, so this is what I want you to really touch on and go into, is your artwork explores the intersection of fine art, medical science, and the human body. So explain that to us, and talk about your beautiful work beside you.
Well, again, thank you so much for, you know, mentioning these places that my work has been exhibited. It is not the most important place that my work lives, however. However amazing those institutions are, and I'm grateful for those opportunities, but the most important place that my artwork exists is in the homes of the people that I'm working with. Each of those individuals has a very special place in my life, and my journey would not exist without them. I mentioned early on the fact that my parents are both pharmacists, and that is absolutely integral to my development as an artist, and the concepts that I explore. So I grew up seeing them have conversations with, you know, people who were struggling with illness and different physiological challenges, or they were the caretakers of people who were recovering or declining in their health journey. And I was always very comfortable having these difficult discussions, or discussions that might be difficult with people. I'm always that person who's like trying to dig in deeper and ask people like, oh my gosh, how did that affect you? Tell me what you did with that. Where are we going now? And then the barista just says, you know, I just asked you if you want to whip cream on your coffee. It's those are just the conversations that I like to have, and seeing how my parents use their talents and skills to help people in their lives really inspired me and informed me. And I always really had a love for biology and science growing up too.
Interesting.
Yes, I know that you do as well. Or mathematics, correct?
Mathematics, yes.
Yes. So my goal for a long time was trying to figure out how I could merge my love and abilities in the arts and my passion for science, biology, and people. People are everything to me. I love people more than anything else in this world, much to a lot of my professors' chagrin when I said I love people more than I love art. So, seeing these difficult conversations and moments in people's lives be explored and discussed every day, I started to do that as I, entered my undergrad and then graduate school. I started to work with individuals and to document their health journeys. And I would go with them to doctor's appointments, to physical therapy appointments. I actually have I have an honorary medical fellowship with LSU Health Sciences Center. So
That's great.
yeah, I was able to go into operating theaters and actually observe procedures taking place. Everything from reconstructive surgeries to cosmetic surgeries, or surgeries that would restore people's, likeness to that they recognize, to, very, very invasive and complicated procedures. I think the longest one I was in was about 16 hours. Very, very intensive. But every artist has to figure out what it is that they want to do with their artwork. And for me, I really believe that artists, given that we have this incredible platform of visibility, that we really do have the capacity and the potential to promote positive change. Whether it's, in our own homes, in our own lives, in our community, in the world. I think that it's all possible for visual artists and performance artists in a way that is maybe harder for some other career paths. And for me, that, I think that it's really tempting to say, I want to change the world, I want to help everyone. But I decided in my practice to start with one other person. So to just walk alongside one other person in their health journey and to really be there for them and their families, and then express that through my artwork. And that would result in a portrait that they then keep as a souvenir and a symbol of this triumph or challenge in their life that no matter what happens, it will define them forever. So that is what I do as an artist. None of it would be possible without the people in my life really making themselves very, very vulnerable as well. My art is not for everyone. There are a lot of people that see my work and that know, straight off the bat that they would not like a painting like that in their own house. They just want to close the door on their, health experience or medical experience and walk away. And I'm fine with that. My work doesn't have to be for everyone, but for the people who do need it and want it, it's there. So
they're lucky to have her, don't you think, Joe?
You can say that again. I love Taryn's work. I've had the opportunity to see it in person, and I'm completely blown away by your work. I love the story behind it and everything about it. And Taryn is an incredible fine artist. Truly.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about somebody that has a really strong why theme and why they do what they do. It's the best one I've ever heard.
If you are a fan of my work, then we all owe a huge round of applause to my beautiful husband. He was actually my first subject. Yes, I fell in love with him about 12 years ago, and he was this gorgeous young Coast Guard rescue swimmer out on the scene in Los Angeles, saving lives, helping families retain their loved ones. And he's had 7 reconstructive surgeries, mostly on his knee. And they started basically as soon as I met him, and I was in undergrad at the time. And so I worked with him and got to observe what it was that he was going through. And this process of documenting a health journey through art happened, because of my boyfriend and the love of my life and the husband and now the father of my daughter. So
she's the wonderful mom of Kiwi, who is 19 months old.
Oh, yeah. Delish. So, Taryn, I wanted to ask you, a lot of people don't know what a curator does. And the curator's role has changed so much, especially recently. We know it's changing. Many artists don't. And if you could share what you know and your experience, we'd appreciate it greatly.
Of course. I think that the standard understood role of a curator is a fusion of exhibition coordinator, so someone who decides upon the layout for a show, determines the themes for upcoming exhibitions,
Right.
pinpoints specific artists that will be involved, and oversees, the entire installation, lighting, all the way up to the opening reception, and then the maintenance of the work, from transportation, inventory, condition report, to hanging on the wall, to deinstall, and then to making sure that the artist receives it in safe condition. I think that is widely understood, or the more immediate concept of a curator. But I think depending on the institution that you're in, the curator takes on many more roles, or a much more focused role. So many museums and galleries have multiple curators of various specialties. Lots of museums have an executive director and then a chief curator. Some have that position in one. So NSU Art Museum, for instance, Bonnie Clearwater is the executive director and the chief curator, and then she has curators under her. So here at the Frank, we do not have a executive director. Chief curator is kind of like at the top of our the top of our organizational structure, and then I report to the Cultural Arts Division with the City of Pembroke Pines. But I think that one of the reasons that the role of the curator is changing is because there is so much responsibility to our public and to our community. There are so many different ways that a gallery or a museum can function in terms of who it is they're really representing and whose choices and decisions they are enforcing and enabling. So for a lot of us, we end up trying to understand what it is that our community really wants, what our public wants to see, what our leadership wants to see, and then also merging that with the idea of being an educator. So again, we can't just stay comfortable in what we're doing. We're looking to bring in artists from other areas and other specialties who are dealing with, national, international concerns, so that we keep everyone open and comfortable and willing to receive what it is that they're seeing, but at the same time that they're being presented with new information or thoughts, different possibilities and novel ways of thinking. So it's definitely a balancing act between trying to read your public and community, understanding what your responsibility is as the leader of an institution who has the serious role of putting images out into the public and sharing these images with parents, families, children, people of all different backgrounds, and then trying to aid forward progress, helping people grow. I think that artists can't grow unless they're seeing tremendous works. So we have to promote the work of our local and regional artists, but we really, really have to push to bring national and international artists right here, so that families who can't drive an hour, down to Miami in our case, or up to Palm Beach, they do have access to world-class arts.
Then how do you find these artists, whether they be local, national, international, as the head curator?
It is such a loaded question. There are so many different ways that we can get in touch with artists. I think that the two of you will resonate with this. Our lives are busy, right? For everyone, for the artist, for the curator, for the staff of these institutions. And one of the most wonderful and organic ways that we can come into contact with possible artists is if they come to our events and openings and actually make a personal connection with us and our team, So I understand that that's hard to do. It's tough to make it through the traffic and the rain sometimes, and, to carve out time from our families and our other obligations. But those artists that actually come to our events, they do stand out, and we remember them, or at least here at the Frank. Like, I remember people who show up, and I do look at everybody's artwork. Looking online and on Instagram is very important. So having a website and having a social media presence, it just is important, you know? So if I'm researching artists who are producing a specific kind of work or working with a particular medium, I will do a lot of that online. And if you have a website and you've got your portfolio ready to go, I often do cold calls with artists who are not even expecting it at all. But, you know, doing that hard work as an artist, this is not the fun stuff, you know, getting your work photographed, preparing inventory sheets, making sure that your work is labeled. It's not the most fun in the world, but man, make it easy for you to be found.
Right? It's a job, just like we were saying earlier. It takes time and it takes commitment.
Right.
But it works.
Exactly. It does work. It does work. And then I think, you know, again, continuing to reach out. So I don't think that there's anything wrong at all with artists contacting galleries that haven't specifically reached out to them. When it comes to artists sending out emails to galleries, even if they're mass emails, I definitely think it's crucial that they show that they've done some research on the galleries to which they are applying or, you know, or contacting. Many galleries have very specific styles or genres or, you know, demographics even that they represent. And it is telling when you receive a portfolio that just has nothing at all to do with anything that you've ever shown before. It's not specifically wrong, but I think that it does mean a lot when you can tell that this person, you know, has seen something in your exhibition programming that they can relate to and they can see their work fitting in with, you know. So there's nothing wrong with reaching out via email, and we actually do receive a lot of emails from artists that we have never contacted before, or, you know, who've never actually come to the Frank before. But if a portfolio is really, really, you know, tightly edited, easy to open, seems to fit and coordinate well with what we're doing here at the Frank or what any institution has shown that they support in the past, it definitely, you know, puts you high up on the list. And if anything, you know, it presents the artist as someone who's well prepared, thoughtful, conscientious, professional, and probably going to be a great collaborator for upcoming projects.
Someone who's easy to work with because they know what they're doing and they've done it before. It's not their first rodeo.
Oh my word. We work with so many artists who had various stages in their professionalism, but I will definitely tell you that the ones that make it easy for us, it being anything, you know, having professional photos of their work ready to go so that we can develop our promotional materials. Sure. People who have their bio just ready to send over to us, people who have the dimensions and specs for their pieces ready. They don't necessarily get preference, but we are likely to invite them back to work with them at least a second time, if not more. So make it easy for us, please.
Again, like the theme of today's show is how to bring your art game to the next level. What do artists do now because of COVID, as far as reaching out? I know people are writing to you coldly. But, like, would you favor if I had sent you something and I didn't know you and I said, you know, Taryn, my name is Jackie Rosen. I'm an artist in abstract expressionism. This is my why. These are the shows I'm in. I was recommended to you by X and X by the Norton Museum. They suggested we would be a good fit. When would be a good time to chat? Isn't that better to kind of, or I met you at an opening, or I saw your vlog, or right?
Absolutely. So definitely customizing your emails or your outreach as much as possible definitely goes a long way. I mean, anything that you can do to show that you have demonstrated interest in this institution, it does set you apart, you know. We receive plenty of emails that are clearly just, you know, BCC'd, and we're receiving them, and that's fine. I do still look at them. Not every curator or director will. But definitely, taking the initiative and showing some sort of personal investment, that you've even taken 5 minutes to maybe research some of the staff members, refer to other interviews that they've done. You can even say, I saw this podcast that you did with Choose 954. I was so inspired by it. And you mentioned that artists should reach out, and I'm so excited for this opportunity. It shows that you're connected and that you're going the extra mile. Yeah, you're listening. I also, you mentioned the idea of a common connection or incorporating a name that we would recognize. I would definitely say to all artists that they shouldn't be afraid of expanding their connections through their own connections, right? So if you have a friend who is exhibiting at a museum or a gallery, and they have, contact information for people, or even just like the administrative department, we pay attention to artists that we've enjoyed working with, and then the people that they recommend as well, So if I get an email from someone saying, I'm a friend of this artist who showed in one of your exhibitions last year, and I was just, so amazed by that installation, and would just love to get involved with you, run it by your friends first, just make sure that they're okay with you using their name, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there. So many artists think that they're being an imposition or a nuisance or irritating to their friends, but as you said, having that personal connection or something that differentiates you from the thousands of other emails that are coming through is crucial.
Yes, and Jill is always mentioning me, trying to get into this, I'm only teasing.
We definitely do that with each other. We'll tell each other about
Yes.
a call or, something special that comes up, and, that's part of what we share things with other artists. And that's what this show is about. We want to share with other artists everything that's out there, and to try to get a real understanding, because in school, you don't always get that kind of understanding. And so that's a good segue into the next question for you. I know it's really hard for artists right now, but internships are so important. You had the most important internship. Can you elaborate on that for the artists out there and explain how important internships are?
Definitely. So your art education is one thing, and definitely, having studio classes, getting your BFA or your AA or your MFA, that can often be the first step in, qualifying you for consideration of a certain position or an opportunity. We work with plenty of artists that don't even have a university education. Their work is just extremely strong, and they are self-educated. And by self-educated, I mean that they are checking out library books on art history. They're not just scrolling through Instagram. They're doing reading, they're researching, they're propelling their own understanding and knowledge forward of their own accord. We work with plenty of artists like that, and have enjoyed doing so. But in terms of, getting an institutional job or a job in an organization like this, while the credential and the education, the degree, it'll qualify you, it'll get that first box ticked off, it's really that real world experience that makes the biggest difference in the world. So every single internship that a student or that an artist can get, I would recommend wholeheartedly that they do so. There's so much that you learn that you'll never be able to learn in a class. And, even for artists who aren't enrolled in a specific program, they can come to art walks, they can come to, art openings, get to meet artists and ask, are you looking for a studio assistant? Even if it's just a couple of hours a week, I would love to help you gesso your canvases, help you transport your work, help you prepare your museum and gallery applications. So you don't even have to be enrolled in college.
I need that person. I need one for me, one for Jill.
I know, right? Yeah, me too. It is just very, very important being a studio assistant, taking independent study classes while you're in a program. A lot of the time, if you find that a local museum or gallery has an internship position available, you can coordinate between them and your college to get college credits for that. So even if the position is unpaid, you can still have it qualify as one of your classes and get incredible experience. So I was a studio assistant to about 4 different artists throughout my undergrad. I was a TA for 2 years in my undergrad, 1 year in my master's program. Then I was a college instructor. During my master's program, I taught 6 different classes. And then while that was happening as well, I was the curatorial assistant for Louisiana Art and Science Museum. So working directly one-on-one with the curator to learn about exhibition coordination and how to create cultural calendars. And all of this, that is the bulk of my resume, and that is what got me this job, and gets me many of my opportunities, because it's one thing to be able to say that you studied these courses or you have these studio skills and technical abilities, but to say that you know how to draft a consignment agreement, you understand how to access museum records, you know what a condition report is and how to conduct one. Those are all things that is very, very hard to fit that into a college education, but you will definitely get it on the job, and people will gladly take the extra help. Probably the most significant internship and then assistantship of my life that really gave me the understanding for everything that I do now, and I think will always be applicable in my life, was my internship with my mentor, who was at once my professor and a very, very prominent, internationally renowned independent curator, Marlena Donahue. I met her during my undergrad, and she was my art history professor, and I love art history and art theory so much. So I became her TA. I became a TA in the art history department at Otis before I was a TA in my actual program. And working with her, I started out helping her with lesson planning, communicating with students, making sure that documents were taken in at the right time, prepared for grading. We really started with the basics, but as she and I got to know each other more, I started helping her more and more with her curatorial projects and the exhibitions that she was curating and planning all around the world. And after I graduated from my undergrad, I worked with her on museums at the Beijing Museum of Contemporary Art, the Museum of Modern Art in Tianjin, China, the Los Angeles.
Like you went all around the world with her.
Yes. We went all around the world, traveled these shows to Sweden and different countries across Europe. It was the education of a lifetime, and I really advise every student or artist to just be ambitious, let these incredible professionals know that you're willing to help, you're prepared to do the hard work. While I started off as a TA with her, she did, hire me to work for her and her company after I graduated. So that it went from being assistantship and an internship to an actual paid experience and a real job. And the truth is that a lot of these professionals are doing 10 people's worth of work on their own. So if they have someone who is responsible, easy to communicate with, and has an understanding of the arts and a love of the arts, they can fill in the gaps. They can mentor you and teach you the rest. So let it be known that you're looking for work, you're looking for experience. Don't think that you're being a nuisance. And keep asking. The worst that you can hear is, no, I don't need any help. Thank you for offering, but you might be told yes, and it might change your life like it did mine. So I will always
Absolutely.
Marlena.
Karen, how about the grant writing that you do? And you just received a grant, a huge grant. So
we're so lucky to have a ton of support from the state of Florida. So the Department of State's Cultural Affairs is just so incredibly supportive of artists. I know that even they received a lot of cuts in terms of the funding that they're able to give. But the Florida Department of Cultural Affairs is always supporting individual artists as well as arts organizations. And again, anytime you're applying for a grant, any artist who's ever received an individual or project-based grant will know this. It's all about preparation and planning, and having meeting and exceeding the checklist that you're provided by the governmental entity or the state entity, on their website or during the application.
What's coming up at the Frank during this time? What's going on there? And then I have a second question. So tell us, what's happening?
I am so proud of what the Frank has been offering to our entire public, not just locally, but really across the world, as a lot of places have started doing ever since the beginning of the pandemic. I've been so lucky to have an incredible team working here over the years. Every single person who's contributed to what the Frank is today is just second to none. And none of that would be possible without the faith and support and guidance of my leaders and the leadership over at the City of Pembroke Pines. We've really been given a lot of trust and a lot of faith here, and the city believes in the power of the arts to elevate, educate, and unite this whole community. And it's a very, very unique experience. I think that anyone who comes to the Frank can actually feel that. So we are, extremely proud of that and thankful for that. I could not do what I do without the support and guidance of my incredible boss, Holly Bonkowski, who's the Assistant Director of Cultural Arts, and then, of course, Christina Sorensen, who's the Director of Recreation and Cultural Arts. And then this conversation about the Frank wouldn't be complete without acknowledging our mayor, Frank C. Ortis, who is, the namesake of the Frank itself, and it's really due to his support of the arts and him being a champion of the arts really his whole life, that this gallery even exists at all. So definitely just want to say that I think that during this time when we all need positivity, we need the arts, we need ways to engage and communicate with the rest of the world. I'm excited to see what the Frank can do moving forward, which, takes me to our announcement of our November exhibition, which will be Biological Futurism. It's going to open the first week of November and then run through the end of December. So definitely check us out at thefrankgallery.org. And all of our virtual exhibitions will exist there for anyone who wants to visit the site and explore the Frank from the safety of their own homes.
So are you open to the public at all for tours, or just virtually?
Just virtually.
Virtually is actually really nice. I love going at my own pace. I love revisiting. It's an experience that I didn't imagine I would enjoy, but there's a lot to see, and I think there's a lot of benefit. Now, I did hear that you were going to do an exhibition with your students. Tell us about that a bit.
Yes, I have the amazing privilege this semester of teaching at Nova Southeastern University right here in Broward. I teach at the Helmus College of Arts and Sciences, and this semester I am teaching a Museum Studies and Gallery Practices course, which is just a total dream come true, as I'm sure you know. My students have been assisting in the production of an incredible exhibition by Miami-based artist Amanda Madrigal. And Gallery 217, which is our campus gallery, is currently hosting her show, a solo exhibition entitled The Garden. So that can be virtually experienced at nova.edu/arts.
Okay, and the Frank Gallery, the website?
It is thefrankgallery.org.
Makes sense to me. Love it.
I just wanted to say that I had the honor of watching on Zoom the exhibition, and the work was an incredible installation, so much to take in. I learned so much from her story and everything that happened and what the exhibition was about. So I really encourage people to please go and virtually see this exhibition.
Yes.
It is absolutely incredible. And I love everything that you're discussing and talking about, Taryn, with the students, with the Frank. The Frank is basically, to me, as many times as I've been there and over the years with you, and it's a joy because it literally looks like a museum. It's so outstanding. It's the design, everything inside, the exhibitions, gorgeous. So many people come. It's just, for my whole family, we have looked forward to every exhibition at the Frank. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show with us and telling everyone out there about everything about you and about the Frank and about your position at NSU as the professor. So hopefully we can have you back and we will talk more about everything else that's going on, more exhibitions at the Frank, more exhibitions with your students.
This has definitely been, I think that it's a redundant statement at this point to say that this has been an unusual time. But if anything, I think it's shown what creative producers and, cultural advocates can do even during really uncertain times. And I'm so thankful to you and Jackie for, putting this series together and, creating quality listening opportunities, learning opportunities for everyone. This is really what artists do best, right? Like we experience along with everyone around us, we interpret what is happening, and then we respond to it in our own unique way. And I've just been so inspired by the amount of resilience and positivity that I've seen in artists such as the two of you. I can't wait to see you both in person so soon.
Absolutely.
We don't have a date coming up yet for our reopening, but when we do, you will both receive invitations to come and meet with me personally. For the audience out there, the Frank is very, very responsive. If you send an email to thefrank@peatpines.com, it does come directly to me and my team. We're always looking to learn about what artists are doing. Right now is a great time for any artists who can teach video workshops, who can put together art, craft, any kind of cultural activity. If they can put together tutorials, whether like a visual walkthrough or a video or even a podcast type thing, that is something that every institution really needs right now. So if that's your thing, or if it can be your thing.
It can be our thing, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to know. Very good for people to know.
It is indeed.
The right time for that.
Well, I love that. This is what artists need to hear. Absolutely. That not to think so much about what's really but what's going on. We're all stressed out about it and we all get it, but we have to move forward in a very positive way. And there are ways of doing things, especially, everyone has so much to offer as artists, like you said, and we're all teachers, we're all creatives. So anyway, thank you so much, Taryn. And
Bye, Taryn. Be well. Be safe.
have you back. Cannot wait to have you back. Okay.
Thank you all so much. It's so wonderful to speak with you both, and to the audience out there, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Wonderful. Bye-bye now.